300 pounds, moving with the speed of a running back. Arms like battering rams, a faith as unshakable as his stance. They called him the Minister of Defense, Reggie White. A man who didn't just sack quarterbacks, he shattered every idea of what a football player could be. 15 sacks in his college senior year, 21 in just 12 NFL games. But behind the stats was a preacher, a protector, a force who changed cities and the game itself. There will never be another Reggie White. And if you think that's just hype, the story of what made him unstoppable will make you question what's truly possible in a man. Here's how that legend began. Before the world knew the Minister of Defense, there was Reggie, just a kid running the hills of Chattanooga, Tennessee, with a dream and a promise. Raised by his mother Thelma until age 8, then taken in by his grandmother Mildred Dodd, Reggie found strength in family and faith. Mildred's house wasn't big, but her rules were clear, and her prayers even louder. She taught him to stand tall, to treat people right, and to believe that purpose was bigger than circumstance. At 12, Reggie made a vow. He told his family he would play pro football and become a minister. Not one or the other. Both. Folks in the neighborhood called it ambition. Reggie called it a calling. Every Sunday, he sat in the pews, soaking up sermons, then raced to the sandlots, where he was already bigger than the older kids. By high school, he was a force. Howard High's Hustlin' Tigers had never seen anything like him. 140 tackles, 88 solo, 10 sacks as a senior. Coaches from across the South started showing up, hoping to land the next big thing. But Reggie wasn't just chasing stats. He led team prayers, helped younger teammates with homework, and listened more than he talked. Faith and football moved together, every step. On Friday nights, he terrorized quarterbacks. On Sunday mornings, he found his center. By graduation, he was Tennessee's top recruit, an All-American, and the pride of Chattanooga. But under the helmet, he was still Mildred's boy, grounded, grateful, and ready to prove that a kid from a small city could change the world, one play and one prayer at a time. The USFL was supposed to be a sideshow. For Reggie White, it became a proving ground. Fresh off a record-shattering run at Tennessee, he could have waited for the NFL. Instead, he signed a 5-year, $4 million deal with the Memphis Showboats, a contract that dwarfed what most NFL rookies could dream of in 1984. The Showboats landed him in the territorial draft, keeping him close to home and putting him in a league stacked with hungry pros and future Hall of Famers. From the first snap, Reggie looked like a man among boys. He started all 36 games over 2 seasons, racked up 23.5 sacks, and forced quarterbacks into panicked throws and hurried decisions. At 6'5" and 300 pounds, he moved like a tight end and hit like a freight train. There was no learning curve. He dominated from day one, tossing linemen aside and collapsing pockets with a single push. Opponents doubled him, chipped him, cut blocked him. Nothing worked. But it wasn't just brute force. Every week, Reggie sharpened his technique. The club move, the first hints of the hump. By his second year, he wasn't just the best defender in Memphis. He was one of the best in the entire league. He even scored a touchdown off a fumble recovery and notched a safety. The Showboats defense climbed the USFL ranks, and Reggie was the engine. The NFL took notice. By the time the USFL folded, there was no doubt. Reggie White was more than ready. He'd gone toe-to-toe with seasoned pros, proven he could dominate at the next level, and showed that his rare blend of size, speed, and skill was no fluke. The stage was set for Philadelphia, but the legend of the Minister of Defense started in Memphis, where a kid from Tennessee turned a short-lived league into his personal launching pad. The club move, the hump move. For most offensive linemen, those words meant one thing: pain was coming. Reggie White didn't just beat blockers, he dismantled them, using a toolkit that felt more like a physics demonstration than a football play. At 6'5" and nearly 300 pounds, his arms stretched longer than most tackles reach, and his hips could generate force that sent men flying. The club was his opening statement. With a single swing of that massive forearm, he'd crash into a lineman's outside arm, knocking it away like a child swatting a toy. The blocker's balance would crumble. That's when White would drive through, feet churning, eyes locked on the quarterback. The move was so violent, so clean, that even future Hall of Famers dreaded it. John Runyon, who faced him in practice, once said, "You knew it was coming, but you couldn't stop it. He'd hit you, and your feet just left the ground." But the club was just the setup. The real nightmare was the hump. White would explode upfield, selling speed to the outside, forcing the tackle to overcommit. 3 steps, then, bang. He'd plant, drop his hips, and launch his inside arm under the tackle's shoulder pad. In one motion, he'd lift and toss a 300-pound man aside, sometimes spinning him completely around. It wasn't just strength. It was leverage, timing, and a sense for human movement that belonged in a biomechanics lab. The blockers' own momentum, already desperate to keep up, became their undoing. White harnessed it, redirected it, and left quarterbacks staring at the sky. Film rooms became confessionals. Coaches would rewind the tape, trying to decode how a single man could collapse an entire pocket with one move. The answer was always the same. Nobody else had White's combination of reach, hip power, and hand speed. He studied film like a scholar, learning each lineman's habits, then attacking their weaknesses with surgical precision. Sometimes he'd use the club twice in a row, then fake it and hit the hump. Sometimes he'd feint both, then bull rush straight through. Blockers were left guessing, off balance, and eventually, on the ground. It wasn't just the violence of the moves, it was the fear. Linemen lined up knowing they'd be tested in ways nobody else could. The club could snap a game open. The hump could break a man's spirit. In the trenches, technique is everything. And Reggie White turned technique into terror. October 25th, 1987. Texas Stadium. The Eagles walk into Dallas with a defense running on pure adrenaline and one man, Reggie White, playing like he's got something personal against the entire NFC East. This is the kind of Sunday where legends are made, and White's about to put on a clinic that will echo for decades. 4 sacks. Not over a month. Not in a playoff run. One afternoon, against the Cowboys, on their own turf. Dallas sends double teams, chips him with tight ends, tries every trick in the book. It doesn't matter. White lines up and drives through blockers like they're standing in water. First quarter, he gets around the edge, flattens the pocket, and buries Danny White. Second quarter, another sack. This time, the club move sends the tackle spinning, and Reggie's got the quarterback before the play even develops. By halftime, Dallas linemen are shaking their heads, the sidelines out of answers. But White's just getting started. He finishes the game with 4 sacks, a forced fumble, and a message sent to every offensive coordinator in the league. You can't scheme him out of the game. That performance doesn't happen in a vacuum. In 1987, White racks up 21 sacks in just 12 games, an average of 1.75 per game, a pace the league hasn't seen since. He's named Defensive Player of the Year, and he's held without a sack only once the entire season. 8 times, he gets to the quarterback more than once in a game. In a league built for running backs, White's putting up numbers that look like a video game glitch. The Dallas game isn't just a highlight, it's a warning shot. He's doing this with Philadelphia's defense stretched thin, carrying the weight himself. Week after week, he's the focal point and still can't be stopped. Opposing linemen start to dread Eagles week. Quarterbacks check for 92 before every snap. Reggie isn't just dominating. He's making it impossible for the Eagles to ignore his value, and impossible for the rest of the league to look away. By season's end, he's not just the most feared defender in football. He's a one-man arms race. and every team in the league is about to start asking what it would take to get a player like that on their side. For now, though, the Minister of Defense is still Philadelphia's lone warrior, rewriting the record book, one sack at a time. The offers came in from everywhere: Miami, San Francisco, Washington, with a contract that topped $19 million. Every team in the league wanted Reggie White, and for the first time, he had the power to choose. The Packers? They weren't even supposed to be in the running. Green Bay was small, cold, and hadn't sniffed a title since the days of Lombardi. But the call from coach Mike Holmgren hit different. The pitch wasn't just about football. Holmgren told him, "Reggie, this is God. Come to Green Bay." It was half joke, half prophecy, and Reggie listened. The money was good. 4 years, $17 million, with a $4.5 million signing bonus and $9 million up front. But it wasn't the biggest deal on the table. The difference was how Green Bay treated him. Not as a mercenary, but as the missing piece. Ron Wolf and Holmgren didn't just want a star. They wanted a leader, a cornerstone, a man who could change the culture. They promised him freedom to continue his ministry, to make a real difference in the city, not just on Sundays. In March 1993, Reggie shocked the league. He picked Green Bay. He picked the smallest market in the NFL, a town of 100,000, over the bright lights and big checks. He called it a calling. The Packers called it salvation. That decision sent shockwaves through the locker room. Veterans stood taller. Young guys believed again. Suddenly, free agents who never would have considered Wisconsin were dialing their agents. If the Minister of Defense could believe in Green Bay, what excuse did anyone else have? The impact wasn't theoretical. The defense that ranked 23rd the year before jumped to second in the league. Quarterbacks who once circled Packers week as an easy win started circling it for another reason. Reggie brought more than stats. He brought belief. He brought accountability. He brought a sense that Green Bay could matter again. Holmgren called him the most important free agent signing in NFL history. In the span of one spring, a forgotten franchise became a destination. Not because of the money, but because one man chose faith, legacy, and a shot at something bigger than himself. New Orleans, January 26th, 1997. The Superdome shakes with noise. The Green Bay Packers lead the New England Patriots, but momentum hangs by a thread. Reggie White, 35 years old, battered by back spasms and a torn hamstring, lines up for what will become the most dominant defensive half in Super Bowl history. He's already limping, sucking wind, but there's no talk of coming out. On the next Patriots drive, Drew Bledsoe drops back. White explodes off the snap, powers through a double team, and buries the quarterback for his first sack of the night. The Packers' sideline erupts. The Patriots try to adjust, sliding protection, chipping with the tight end. It doesn't matter. Bledsoe sets up again. White loops inside, tosses the guard aside with his signature hump move, and drags the quarterback to the turf. 2 sacks. The Patriots' offensive line looks shell-shocked. Every time they try to regroup, number 92 is in the backfield, collapsing the pocket, swallowing up the play. The 3rd sack comes in the 4th quarter. White barrels through, wraps up Bledsoe, and the crowd knows it's over. 3 sacks in one Super Bowl, all in the second half. A record for defensive linemen that still stands. No one had ever done it before. No one's done it since. On the sideline, Brett Favre wraps his arms around Reggie. Teammates mob him. The cameras catch White with tears in his eyes. Helmet off, arms raised to the sky. This wasn't just a win. It was validation for every hard decision, every lonely rehab, every prayer whispered in the dark. For years, critics said he'd never get his ring. Now, with the confetti falling and the Lombardi trophy in reach, Reggie White stands at the center of it all. He didn't just anchor the Packers' defense. He finished the job on the biggest stage against the best. 3 sacks. One legend, cemented forever. When the clock hits 0, the Minister of Defense kneels in the end zone, head bowed. The record books will remember the stats. But every player in that locker room knows Reggie White just delivered a masterpiece. Reggie White didn't just lead on Sundays. He built a second home in the locker room, turning pre-game chaos into something closer to a chapel. Teammates remember the folding chairs, the quiet prayers, the way he'd open a Bible and speak with the same conviction he brought to the line of scrimmage. Guys who'd never set foot in a church found themselves drawn in, some out of curiosity, others out of need. Reggie didn't force faith on anyone. He just lived it, every day, in the way he listened, the way he counseled, the way he forgave. But his reach stretched far beyond the stadium walls. In Green Bay, he and Sarah launched Urban Hope, a program built to give people a shot, not a handout. Over 900 small businesses started because of that vision. The model was simple. Teach a 12-week course, help future entrepreneurs build a plan, then give the best a $2,500 grant to launch. The results spoke for themselves. While most new businesses fail, Urban Hope's success rate topped 95%. Former students became mentors. New jobs took root. And economic hope spread through neighborhoods that had been overlooked for decades. For Reggie, ministry wasn't a title. It was action. It was showing up, investing in people, and lifting up communities, one life, one business, one prayer at a time. That's the legacy his teammates and neighbors remember. The servant leader who turned faith into something you could see, touch, and build a future on. Number 92, the only man whose jersey is retired by both the Eagles and the Packers. In Philadelphia, they honored him under the Monday Night Lights, with Randall Cunningham and a full city's gratitude. In Green Bay, his number hangs beside Lombardi's and Stars, a reminder that one player can change everything. For teammates, coaches, and fans, Reggie White was the gold standard, on the field, in the locker room, and out in the world. The numbers tell part of the story. 198 sacks, second most in NFL history when he retired. Double-digit sacks in 10 separate seasons. A Super Bowl ring, Defensive Player of the Year awards, and a place on the NFL's 100th anniversary team. But the numbers don't capture the loss when it all stopped. December 26, 2004, 43 years old, gone in his sleep, the result of a fatal cardiac arrhythmia linked to sarcoidosis and untreated sleep apnea. The news hit like a punch. Green Bay, Philly, and the entire NFL left searching for words. In the months that followed, tributes poured in. Teammates spoke of a gentle giant who lifted others. Coaches remembered a man who turned film study into an art. At every number 92 ceremony, the message was the same. There will never be another. Not with that blend of power, faith, and heart. Not in this game. Not in this world. Reggie White's legacy isn't just in the record books. It's in the lives he changed, the communities he built, and the standard he set for all who came after. When Reggie White retired, his 198 career sacks ranked second in NFL history, a number that defined his rare dominance. From his 15-sack senior season at Tennessee to 3 Super Bowl sacks in Green Bay, the evidence shows a player whose impact was felt on every level. Official records confirm both the Eagles and Packers retired his jersey number 92, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame inducted him on the first ballot. Yet, some questions remain. How many more lives could he have changed had sleep apnea and heart disease not ended his life at 43? Today, his signature moves are still studied by coaches and players, and organizations like Urban Hope continue his community mission. The facts are clear. Reggie White set a standard of athletic excellence, leadership, and service that no one has matched. His legacy, grounded in both numbers and actions, endures in every sack, every life touched, and every lesson passed on.